Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we'll be discussing what is and what is not the Buddha. It's a very, very simple one. If you're new here, my name is Fakery, and the goal here is to express the non-dual. If you like Zen stories, subscribe for more. Today, Tozan's 3 pounds of flax. A monk asked Tozan, "What is Buddha?" Tozan replied, 3 pounds of flax. That's it, very simple. So this is pointing to Buddha being everything. There's masajin is the word for 3 pounds of flax. So there's a bit more to it than just being everything. But Buddha is everything. So anything that you say about Buddha or the non-dual or the Tao, you can use any language you want here, anything that you say about it is always right. Anything you point to is always it. So Buddha is everything, the non-dual is everything. In this case, Tozan is answering very, very quickly. Masajin is a very fast word to say in Chinese. I'm using a Japanese translation, so Masajin is very quick to say in Japanese. You want to say things when asked a question authentically, quickly, without any resistance. So that is that flow. That is why he says 3 pounds of flax. But it is important to understand that it is anything. So if you're asked about who you are or the non-dual or what everything is about, what is the purpose of life, anything like that, any of these deep questions, the first thing, it's not even the first thing that you think of, it's before you think. You want to answer immediately, spontaneously, because there's nothing that you can say that's wrong. It's always right. And if you're stuck thinking about something, if you're stuck hesitating, if there's any resistance at all, then that means that you are missing it. You're resisting it. You're resisting the truth, the reality, which is Buddha is everything. The non-dual is everything. Purpose, meaning, all of that stuff is everything. Ultimate love is all everything. So whatever you think about, before you even think about it, the first thing is it. It's always it. On to Mumon's commentary. Old Tozan attained the poor zen of a clam. He opened the 2 halves of the shell a little and exposed all the liver and intestine inside. But tell me, how do you see Tozan? I like the notion of poor man's zen. Poor man's zen being looking at dualities. So whatever the first thing he sees, right? That's so in the dualistic sense. He sees something in this dualistic sense, and that's expressing the non-dual. He's got 2 halves of the clam, and he opens it. But he's using the 2 halves. He has the 2 halves of this clam. He's seeing the dualistic world, and he opens it to see the liver and the intestines inside. This is the filter. Of course, this is our mind. You can directly see what the mind is doing, what the filter is doing. When somebody asks a question, and the first thing that you look at is a pound of 3 pounds of flax, the mind is filtering the question and filtering all the information. You can see all of it immediately once that spontaneous response happens. You can see the liver, you can see the intestines, you can see exactly what the mind is doing. Very interesting notion. But tell me, how do you see Tozan? I don't know what that means exactly. I guess it's pointing back to us, right? It's asking us to investigate what we are doing, to investigate our own filter. Of course, Tozan is filtering his worldview, filtering what he sees when that question is asked and immediately spitting it out. But then when we are presented with Tozan, we may have an image of a person yelling 3 pounds of flaxseed. We may have an image that we may even have a reference to that image. If you've seen pictures of him, you may not have a reference to that image if you don't see it. But there is something happening. So investigate your own filter. Investigate your mind and figure out how that's working out. Investigate if you think that his poor man's zen is somehow less valuable than zen. If there's a difference between poor man's zen and zen, and so on and so forth. These are the things that we need to investigate, and that is the question: how do you see Tozan? What are you seeing? How is your mind processing all this information at this moment, immediately, right now? Because that is the Buddha. That is Buddha. Mumon's poem, 3 pounds of flax came sweeping along. Close were the words, but closer was the meaning. Those who argue about right and wrong are those enslaved by right and wrong. Beautiful. 3 pounds of flax is something that you can say very quickly in Chinese, which is why the words were close together. But even closer was the meaning. Closer being of the meaning being just he was spontaneous with it, and it's really close to what Buddha is. But of course, anything you say, it's right, but it's it's not there. It's not always there. It's not exactly that. It's beyond what you can say. But if you say it without resistance, you're closer. Whatever, we don't have to get caught up in that. What we do want to get caught up in is those who argue about right and wrong are enslaved by right and wrong. If you determine that what Buddha is not 3 pounds of flax, actually Buddha is, this guy Shakyamuni, this guy Siddhartha Gautama, this guy, like that historical figure, that's Buddha. Everything else is not Buddha. What are you, crazy? You're being caught in right and wrong. Of course, this is dualities. You're being caught in yin and the yang. You're seeing separation between different things. When you're caught up in that, you are enslaved by that. Do not be a slave to objective reality. You want to get beyond what you see here. You want to get beyond what is right and what is wrong. No, don't be a slave to yin and yang, right and wrong. They're just unified into judgment, maybe. And judgment can be separated from other experiences. And all of those experiences and judgment, that's all one thing, which would be, I don't know, contrasted to that's all different types of consciousness or sentience, which consciousness and non-consciousness or unconsciousness, that together would form something else, and so on and so forth. It all goes up. It all goes up to the non-dual, and it's all the Buddha. Everything represents the Buddha. Literally everything is a representation of the Buddha. Everything is a representation of the Tao, and there's nothing that cannot be a representation of it, because the Buddha and the Tao, that is something that is, it is what is not separated. It has no opposite. There is no opposite to it. So there's no right and there's no wrong. Everything is always a representation. All right, that's it for today's story. If you like more Zen stories, hit this playlist over here. If you want to subscribe, hit the subscribe button right here, this icon. Join me on Twitch every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I stream live. We can talk about this stuff. That is it. Thank you for joining me.